What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got a lovely level 6 Digimon that's gone and been revealed in a magazine and translated by, stop me if you've heard this one before, the lovely folks over at Ensan Gaming. We've got MirageGaogamon, and this is awesome. We love this. Because the fact of the matter is, we've been building up this Gao line through a bunch of reveals over the past few days. And I know that I have wanted to see the complete line so we can take a nice good look at how it looks and how much fun we're going to be having with it. Now that we've got this level 6, it is here and that is awesome. Shout out to the lovely James Gill for tagging me in the post and letting me know that it is the mega of the Gaomon line, which is pretty awesome. Seriously, I get a bunch of people who hit me up with information, tips, tag me and stuff, etc. And you know the deal at this stage. Anybody who ever helps me out with any of this stuff, you guys are awesome and I love you for it. So, MirageGaogamon here, what have we got? Well, we got a 12 cost to play normally, which is slightly more expensive, but nothing too terrible. A 4 cost to Digivolve, which I'll be honest with you, I'm not loving. This is more expensive. We don't like this one as much. And 12,000 power, which is slightly higher than average for a level 6, so bit more expensive, bit more powerful. Of course, the eagle-eyed among you here might notice this is actually the exact stat line we saw on the level 6s that do have abilities, well, some of them at least, over in the starter decks. So the War Greymon from the starter deck, for instance, has this exact same stat line, which is what we thought all of them were going to have initially. How wrong we were. But really, it's the skills we're looking at here, and the skills are good. When you Digivolve, for each 4 cards your opponent has in hand, you gain 1 memory. And the fact of the matter is, this could be an amazing skill, or this could be a terrible garbage skill. Because you see, the fact of the matter is, a lot of the time, you're going to Digivolve up, and you're going to gain a memory. Most of the time, you're going to gain 1 memory. I reckon a lot of the time, you're going to have between 4 and 8 cards, or your opponent is, in their hand. Because the fact of the matter is, the Digimon TCG is not a game with gigantic hand sizes. It's just not. You start the game with 5 cards. You draw 1 card during your turn. You draw an extra card every time you Digivolve. And then there are the odd draw cards. I mean, if we look at the decks that have good draw, we look at blue decks. And we look at cards like Uppermon. It's got an inheritable skill, and the Digimon that has evolved from it, when you attack, you get to draw a card. And then the Gabumon, that when you play it, you get to draw a card. But this is not a game where we have huge hand sizes. Maybe there'll be people running around with 8 card hands and you'll gain 2 memory. Or 12 card hands and you'll gain 3 memory, but I think that's going to be few and far between. So this is going to turn into a 3 cost to Digivolve, and if you're really lucky, a 2 card to Digivolve. But don't forget, your opponent can just play around this. Your opponent can just go, well look, I know that you're going to gain cards for every 1 card in my hand, so rather than play 1 big card this turn, I'm going to play 2 or 3 smaller cards so that I've got fewer cards in hand and you're gaining less memory. And it's still only 1 or 2 memory. And don't get me wrong, right? 1 or 2 memory is still good, but don't be under the impression that this is the kind of card that's going to gain you a huge amount of memory. There are some card games out there like Pokemon where you can truly pull just gigantic hands. That is not the case here, ladies and gentlemen. Hey ho. But there is a second skill here, and the second skill says that on your turn, this Digimon cannot be blocked. Well, this one I like very much indeed. The fact of the matter is, right, in the Digimon TCG, blocking ruins your game. Blocking ruins your turn. When you're trying to figure out how to win the game, I mention this in a lot of videos, I like to think about it a lot as essentially a number of turns, a number of attacks. I win in X attacks, my opponent wins in Y attacks. But every time my opponent is able to block an attack, then all of a sudden I have to do another attack in order to win the game. Except it's not actually that simple, because if my opponent blocks an attack when I've got security attack +1, +2, etc., then it might be more than one attack I then need to make up in order to go ahead and win the game, and that is not a position I really want to be in. Well, all of a sudden, this comes along, and this is going to help you out beautifully. I love this. This gives certainty in a way that others don't. The other thing to bear in mind here, because you've got 12,000 power, which is higher than the average level 6, although it doesn't guarantee that you'll survive a security check, it gives you a better chance than a lot of Digimon at surviving a security check. And if you're going to survive a security check and you're not going to be blocked, that gives you really nice survivability. Of course, a parallel really needs to be drawn with Metal Etamon here. Now, Metal Etamon is a black Digimon, but it's a 12 cost to play normally, the same. 3 cost to Digivolve, time you gain probably 1 memory from your first skill, the same. 10,000 power, but on your turn it goes up to 12,000, the same. And on your turn it can't be blocked. So assuming your opponent has got 4 cards or 7, between 4 and 7 in hand, this is actually the same as Metal Etamon, although you do get 12,000 on your turn and your opponent's. Metal Etamon is only on your turn, and that's big, of course, because if your opponent's got an 11,000 power level 6, as lots of them are, they won't be able to take out a MirageGaogamon, but they will be able to take out a Metal Etamon. I just thought it was funny that those cards end up looking really hyper similar. Now, I did tell you that we've pretty much completed the Gaogamon line here, and we can now start looking at exactly how this is going to build up and how this is going to look. I mean, the one gigantic advantage we really have here is the Tamer Thomas H. Nordstein. It's a 3 cost, but when you play it, you draw a card, which is good. And when your opponent has 8 or more cards in hand, you may suspend this Tamer to unsuspend one of your Digimon with Gao in its name. Now, if your opponent has got 8 cards in hand, this is phenomenal. Because you're going to play down Thomas H. Nordstein, you're going to draw a card. You're then going to Digivolve into MirageGaogamon, and you're going to gain 2 memories, so you're essentially Digivolving for a 2 cost, which is awesome. Then you're going to attack with a 12,000 power Digimon that cannot be blocked, which is awesome. Then, because your opponent's got 8 cards in hand, you are going to rest this, and then you're going to make MirageGaogamon active again. And you're going to be able to attack again, and you still can't be blocked. If your opponent has got 8 cards in hand, the combination of Thomas H. Nordstein and MirageGaogamon is awesome. But I've been playing a whole bunch of games lately in preparation for this webcam tournament that's happening at the weekend. And I rarely have 8 cards in hand. And my opponent rarely has 8 cards in hand. And although there are turns you've got 1 or 2 memory, so you're only playing 1 card anyway, there are plenty of turns where you've got 4, 5, 6 memory, etc. And if I'm worried about this particular strategy, I can drop 2 or 3 cheaper cards rather than 1 more expensive card, still leave my opponent on a small amount of memory, but make sure that I've got fewer than 8 cards in hand. And sure, there are some decks out there, blue decks like I've said spring to mind, that are going to draw a bunch of cards, and maybe against them, but I refuse to believe the majority of decks out there are going to often have 8 or more cards in hand. And that means that Thomas H. Nordstein is rarely going to work, and that means that you are rarely going to gain much memory from MirageGaogamon, and I'm going to have to apologise here, there are a couple times I've referred to it as MirageGaogamon, and it's not, it's MirageGaogamon. My apologies. Hopefully I put a little note up on the screen when I said it wrong like a silly boy. I'm sorry. But I think what we end up with in the best case scenario is phenomenal. A 2 cost to Digivolve, 12,000 power Digimon that can't be blocked and is made active every turn. That is a phenomenal card. In the more realistic scenario, you've got a 3 cost to Digivolve, 12,000 that can't be blocked. And that's still awesome. That's still Metal Etamon. And I love not being able to be blocked. That gives certainty and that gives options and it's awesome. But I do think it is very much worth bearing in mind that there is a huge difference here between the best case scenario and what I consider to be the more realistic scenario. You have been warned. And I know I said we completed the Gao line and we take a good old look, but actually it's just a Tamer. Although we've seen a bunch of Gao Pokemon. I mean, we've seen Gaomon, but Gaomon has absolutely nothing to do with this. There's no synergy whatsoever. It's a cool Digimon that if it's Digibursted away, it goes back to your hand rather than to the trash. But that's literally it. So, sorry. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. A card that could be phenomenal or could be a little bit meh. I'll leave it up to you. That's never going to be bad, I suppose, but it's so much potential that I don't think it's going to reach. But I'd like to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy. That's where we talk Digimon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all kinds of good stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.